All right, let's, Sudhakar will get back to you. Let's listen live to the event that is happening in Osaka in Japan.
Is going to hand over the reports on women's economic empowerment and IMF. Thank you very much. Now, next, Mr. Nakao, President of ADB, and Ms. Karada, ADB Program Coordinator, Sri Lanka, are going to hand over the report on the implementation of We5 project titled Promoting Women's Entrepreneurship in Sri Lanka. Thank you very much. Now, Ms. Mlamba Mikuka, Executive Director of UN Women, hands over their key policy recommendation on gender equality and women's empowerment. Thank you very much. Mr. Malpas, President of the World Bank Group, hand over the report about activities of We5, for which the World Bank plays a key role as its secretariat. Thank you very much. Ms. Koch-Melan, President and founder of the Women Political Leaders, Ms. Tsuchiya, leader of the delegation of the WPO Summit 2019, and Ms. Kamikawa, WPO Ambassador of Japan, are going to hand over their outcome declaration issued at the WPO Summit 2019, just held in Tokyo from June 25th and 27th. Thank you very much. And lastly, Ms. Neguro and Ms. Yoshida, co-chair of W20 Japan Steering Committee, are going to hand over the prioritized outline of WTO communique. Thank you very much. Now Prime Minister Abe will make remarks. He will speak in Japanese, so those who need simultaneous translation, please wear the receiver for the simultaneous translation. Prime Minister, please.
Okay. 各国の首脳の皆様。
Distinguished leaders, Her Majesty Queen Maxima, Ms. Ivanka Trump, advisor to the President of the United States, distinguished representatives of international organizations and groups, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure to have all of you today for the sake of women's empowerment, one of our important policy agenda. I would like to reiterate my appreciation to the international organizations and groups for their various contributions to the G20. As the G20 presidency, Japan has been working to advance the discussions on women's empowerment. Thanks to your cooperation, I am pleased that I can announce 3 priority areas and advancement highlighted under Japan's presidency. Firstly, with regard to women's labor participation toward achieving a 25 by 25 target, we will establish follow-up system where G20 members implementation status reviewed at the leaders level. I am pleased that Japan has been making a good progress on that. Secondly, with regard to support for girls' education, we will work toward a world where all the girls can access quality education for at least 12 years. This is what I promised with the Ms. Malala Yousafzai, Nobel Peace Prize laureate. Japan will provide quality education and training for at least 4 million girls and women in developing countries for over the 3 years by 2020 and thereby work toward realizing safe and secure learning environment. Thirdly, it is important to continue support for women entrepreneurs and reflect the voices of women business leaders in the efforts of private sector and the discussions of G20. We welcome steady implementation of women entrepreneurs' financial initiatives We5 launched under the presidency of Chancellor Merkel with the collaboration of advisor Trump. We will also support the launching of Empower, self-sustaining network among women business leaders with Prime Minister Trudeau, proponent of this project, and other G20 countries. Furthermore, we welcome that the United Nations Secretary General Special Advocate Queen Maxima will provide support for W20 on its activities. The G20 members at different development stages make a unified effort to promote women's empowerment. I believe that such effort will serve as a driving force for further development of G20 as a whole. Japan will host the World Assembly for Women next year in April 3rd and 4th in the cherry blossom season. We welcome your participation. Let's continue to our efforts for further promoting women's empowerment. Thank you very much.
Now, Now, UN Secretary General's Special Advocate for Inclusive Finance for Development, Her Majesty Queen Maxima of the Netherlands, will make remarks. Her Majesty, please.
Mr. Abe, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is really exciting to be with you at this important event. In my 10 years as UN Special Advocate for the Secretary General for Inclusive Finance for Development, the economic empowerment of women has been at the heart of my work. It has also been an important topic in my role as the honorary patron of the G20 Global Partnership for Financial Inclusion. All of us have an extraordinary opportunity to unleash the economic potential of women. If women had an identical role in labor markets as men, up to $28 trillion would be added to the global GDP by 2025. Needless to say, what would it mean for families, education of children, and their overall well-being if women are economically empowered? Today, I would like to highlight 3 essential actions that we can take to make this a reality. First, we must bridge the digital divide if we want to enable the women to embrace all the opportunities that have been offered by the 4th Industrial Revolution. In low and middle income countries, women are behind men by 26% in mobile internet usage. This, while the most promising modern solutions for economic empowerment, such as mobile banking, rely upon technology and digitization. Second, we must remove legal and regulatory barriers that obstruct women's financial inclusion and economic empowerment. For example, in low-income countries, women have 33% less chance than men to have an ID. And more than 1/3 of countries around the world constrain freedom of movement for women. These hurdles, among others, contribute to a staggering 7% gap in global account ownership between men and women. It is really necessary to close this gap for women to be economically empowered. And thirdly, we must make sure that women also enjoy access to public goods. These basic foundations and services are key for women to join the formal digital financial and economic system. They include connectivity, cybersecurity, digital ID, financial literacy, digital literacy, and data privacy. To make progress in these 3 areas, we need to collect robust data. Thanks to the World Bank FinTech database and the IMF Financial Access Survey, we have made progress in collecting data on financial inclusion. But in many countries, there are still information gaps, such as the proportion of women clients at financial institutions or the types of products and services that reach women. Therefore, we need to redouble our efforts to collect more granular data to make evidence-based decisions and to measure our progress. For example, in Mexico, disaggregated data revealed a substantial gap in retirement savings for women. Therefore, Mexican authorities use this data to develop retirement savings programs specifically for women, which now aims to reach 2.4 million women. A very good example of what you can do with data. But more good data is a first necessary step. We also need to do further research on what really works to actually reach and empower the women. In this context, we can leverage all the great work of the W20 engagement group. However, substantial progress can only be made by carrying out this work year-round and continuously building upon the endeavors of the previous years. With that in mind, I am very pleased to introduce the W20 Acceleration Platform for Women's Economic Empowerment. This platform will boost our capacity to collect data, conduct research on public goods, and develop recommendations for policies that release the economic power for women. It will bring continuity and strength to the work of the W20. And it will, above all, focus on implementing recommendations on financial inclusion, digital inclusion, and labor inclusion in different countries. We hope that through the platform, we can build on the strong momentum and really spur action. Ladies and gentlemen, before I conclude, I'd like to express how very honored I am to see the G20 Troika support. And I want to note that it was Chancellor Merkel who was the first person to discuss this idea with us. I'm also extremely pleased to see Prime Minister Abe here and grateful for his efforts to advance women's economic empowerment, certainly in Japan with Womenomics. And of course, President Macri for wonderful work on the W20 last year. I'm counting on the support of everyone in this room to achieve the economic empowerment of women. This is particularly true for male leaders. This is an issue that is as important for men as it is for women. And we need you all if we want to really achieve success. I'll count on your leadership, your example, and your determination. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Her Majesty. Now, Advisor to the President of the United States will make remarks. Please, Advisor.
Thank you, Prime Minister Abe, for hosting the G20 summit in the vibrant city of Osaka. And thank you for your steadfast commitment to women's economic empowerment. One of my first international trips as part of the administration was at your invitation to Tokyo to talk about events and issues that we're talking about here this morning. So I'm grateful for your steadfast focus and your leadership on this critical issue. Queen Maxima, congratulations on your bold new initiative. Under your leadership, undoubtedly, the W20 acceleration platform will achieve great things, so thank you. It's truly an honor to address so many heads of state who have joined us here today. I applaud the leaders in this room who have pioneered important reforms to elevate one of the most undervalued resources in the world, the talent, the ambition, and the genius of women. We are united by a shared goal. We believe that women's inclusion in the economy is not solely a social justice issue, which of course it is. It's also smart economic and defense policy. As Queen Maxima noted, if women participated in labor markets equally to men, global annual GDP could rise between an estimated $12 trillion or $28 trillion by 2025. Research further has shown that states with higher female participation in the labor force are less likely to use violence or military force to resolve international conflict. This is critical. Underscoring this, more than 80% of the lowest scoring countries in the Index for Gender Discrimination have, in fact, experienced armed conflict in the last 2 decades. Despite this, in more than 100 countries, women still do not have equal rights under the law, including opportunities to work in certain professions, purchase or inherit land, own businesses, or access capital. That is why 2 years ago, at the G20 in Hamburg and at the direction of President Trump, the United States, Japan, Germany, the World Bank, and so many others on this stage launched WeFi. Since then, WeFi has mobilized $2.6 billion, investing in more than 100,000 women-owned businesses. More than half of this capital has gone to women entrepreneurs in fragile nations. Earlier this year, President Trump established WGDP. This is the first ever whole-of-government approach to women's economic empowerment in the United States. Our goal is to reach 50 million women in the developing world by 2025, and we will meet it. WGDP focuses on 3 pillars: vocational education for women, empowering women to succeed as entrepreneurs with initiatives like WeFi, and eliminating the legal and cultural barriers that prevent women from fully and freely participating in their local economies. Over the last several decades, the countries represented here today have made significant progress to recognize women's rights and economic potential. Back at home, President Trump has reduced taxes on working families, increased access to quality childcare, prioritized the first ever nationwide plan for paid family leave, and increased capital to women entrepreneurs. As a result, in the United States, the women's unemployment rate is at the lowest level in 65 years, and in the past 2.5 years, over 60% of all new jobs created in America were secured by women. But every nation, including the United States, can and should do more. We must continue to prioritize women's economic empowerment and place it at the very heart of the G20 agenda. If we propose bold solutions and challenge the limits of the past, we will empower women to lift their families out of poverty, to grow the economies in their countries, and to deliver greater peace and prosperity to millions around the world. This is a legacy worth fighting for, and a future we can be proud to leave to our children. The United States looks forward to working with all of those here today, including Saudi Arabia, which will be hosting the next G20 presidency, to advance these important and critical goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now,